Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Prell. I am the president and founder of ElderWorks Educational Services. Thank you so much for attending today's session. We're very excited to have Mike Iwanicki here to discuss the veterans benefits. So Mike is, I'm going to just read his bio because I only know him as my friend and an expert in all veterans issues. So his biography is that he served honorably in the U.S. Navy, and after earning his degree in management and economics, he began his career in retail management and customer service. In 1998, Mike was offered a position with the Veterans Assistance Commission and was elected to the position of superintendent by the county's veterans service organizations in 2003. Working with the commission, the VAC's mission was redefined to include prioritizing assisting veterans and their families with the presentation and prosecution of VA claims. Mike shares his knowledge of working with the VA to help train other veteran service officers as well as the public. Mike has served 6 years as president of the Illinois Association of County Veterans Assistance Commissions and is currently serving as president of the Illinois Association of County Officials. He lives with his wife, Stacy, and their 2 dogs and cats. And when not helping veterans and their families, he enjoys gardening, beekeeping, and cooking. He also makes a mean grog. What is it? What do you call it? That drink?
Wine, mead.
Mead, thank you. Not grog, mead. So welcome, Mike. I'm going to go ahead and hide myself, and you have a great presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I just want to welcome everybody here. And if you didn't already know this, May is the month of the military caregiver. Now, understanding what happens with caregivers was very important to the VAC. We did a survey back in 2018, and a lot of the written comments we got back, we sent out 4,000 surveys and we got over 500 back. And there were a lot of written comments from people who were saying or indicating that they needed some kind of help at home. And that's when we started learning more about the need for caregiver support in the area. And it's not that there wasn't caregiver support, it's that people didn't know how to access it. My own story is with my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. My mother-in-law had severe dementia, and my father-in-law was her caregiver. My wife and I were always there to help out, but he didn't want the help. And you know, the good thing for him is I knew some of the locations where to get help. Oftentimes, a caregiver is thrust into the position because of sudden illness or injury. And maybe they think they can handle it. Maybe they're prepared for it. Maybe they're not. Chances are they're not. They have an image in their mind of how it's going to go. And then they find out the person they're caring for may not be as cooperative as they thought they would be. So then when they start looking for help, they're not sure where to turn. And it's a process of finding where everything is. Well, this is what we're going to try to do, is a shortcut to that process. That's what happened with my father-in-law, and that was with us involved. And you know, the other problem I noticed with caregivers is when they are often offered help, they don't take the time off. Maybe they got somebody in the house there taking care of, in my father-in-law's case, my mother-in-law. He didn't want to leave the house. He wanted to stay there with her and talk to the caregiver rather than get out and see the doctor and do whatever else he needed to do. So moving on from that, what we do at the VAC is we help with veterans benefits. And we often get the question, well, what benefits am I eligible for? This is the book that explains the book on veterans benefits. There is a lot in here. So we usually ask people to narrow it down a little bit. But as you can see, there's a lot to it. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with everybody. And let me see when this pops up. And again, I want to welcome everybody for being here. And let's go to the next slide. Okay, first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Veterans Assistance Commission in McHenry County. The Veterans Assistance Commission in McHenry County was started in 1989, and it was primarily there to help with financial assistance to some of our lower income veterans. In addition to financial assistance, like I said earlier, we had changed a few things around. We also provide caregiver assistance. We provide transportation to the Lovell Federal Health Care Center. Advocacy, that's what we call supporting veterans in their claims against the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and helping them get into VA healthcare, and referral services. We do have outreach programs, and the most important one we have is our client outreach. Not everybody who wants our help is able to come to our office, so we'll reach out to them. Occasionally we'll see them at a library, at a McDonald's, sometimes in their home, and of course outreach education, which is what this is. Today I'm specifically going to be talking about the advocacy portion of what we do. Now, by professional advocacy, what we have is we're recognized by the VA General Counsel to present and prosecute claims on behalf of veterans. I'm sure you can read that. We are able to prosecute these claims all the way to the VA Board of Appeals. After the VA Board of Appeals and the hearing judge is there, if there is still a question of law, then that would have to go to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, and we know some attorneys that can represent the case at that point. As we discussed in my bio, the Veterans Assistance Commission, which is made up of all the veteran service organizations, actually decided to make the presentation and prosecution of claims a priority around 2004, 2005. We noticed that there was, there was only a couple people in McHenry County for 20,000 veterans that were well qualified to do this. So the Veterans Assistance Commission, which again is made up of all the posts in the county, decided that we were going to change the focus and make that one of our priorities. Now, the accreditation that we all have in the office is individual accreditations. So they don't accredit the office, they accredit the individuals. We have 4 service officers. Each one of them has to be trained and certified by various service organizations. For example, I'm certified before the VA by the American Legion, VFW, AMVETS, Disabled American Veterans, and National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. And we have others, but everybody in our office is accredited and certified to be filing these claims. Now, when I'm talking about advocacy, again, we're talking mainly prosecuting claims at the Veterans Benefits Administration. Oftentimes people see the VA and the picture they have is of the VA hospitals, the VA Health Administration. There's actually 3 VAs, the Veterans Health Administration, the Veterans Benefits Administration, and the Veterans Cemetery Administration. Now, the Veterans Health Administration, just like it sounds, that's all the hospitals and the community-based outpatient clinics in the area. The Veterans Benefits Administration, that's where the veterans are getting their education benefits, their service-connected disability, the VA home loan guarantee, a lot of the popular programs, and then some of the less known programs. What I'm going to be discussing is, quickly, VA service-connected disability, adaptive housing grants, DIC, and the VA pension, often referred to as aid and attendance. And what I'm doing this for is we're trying to take a path to getting into VA healthcare, because VA healthcare is the one that has comprehensive assistance for caregivers and support services for caregivers. So in order to access this from the VA, you need to have VA healthcare. And more than simply applying for VA healthcare, which is one way to get in there, I'm also showing other ways to get into VA healthcare and how you can get some of these services. So let's start off with VA service-connected disability. VA service-connected disability is compensation, kind of like workman's comp, based on a person's military service if they suffered a chronic injury or illness. My favorite example is, let's say somebody broke their leg in the military And they wore a cast for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and they were healed and they're fine. Well, the sins of youth usually comes back when you're a little bit older. That broken leg can become arthritic because of the traumatic injury to that leg. Well, arthritis is considered a chronic condition, and that arthritis caused by that broken leg can be service connected by the VA. And that's where we attempt to work with the veteran to try to get disability compensation. And disability compensation is paid in degrees going from 0 to 100%. 0 recognizes that the disability is related to military service. However, the disability is not compensatable. And then you have 10% all the way up to 100%, 100% being that this is a condition that's totally disabling and expected to last the lifetime of the veteran. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll last the lifetime of the veteran, but it could last the lifetime of the veteran. And as you can see, what we're trying to do is prove 3 things to the VA. That there was an incident in service, like in my example, that there was the broken leg, that the veteran now has a current condition, arthritis in that leg, and linking the 2 together or creating a nexus saying, hey, this over time caused this arthritis. So what the VA will do is if they determine that, yes, it is in fact service connected, like I said, they'll put a rating on that. And that rating will come with a certain amount of money, depending on what the rating is. But as it says here, these ratings are based on the average impact of the average individual's ability to perform work with that disability. So another example I like to use is carpal tunnel syndrome. So somebody has carpal tunnel syndrome and it hurts their hands and everything. And let's say the VA says it's 20% disabling to have carpal tunnel syndrome. Well, a person who lays bricks, which I did that was our family company growing up. So laying bricks, I could probably lay bricks with carpal tunnel syndrome and be generally okay. But when if I'm in watch repair and I have this fine tuning or a jeweler, that carpal tunnel syndrome is going to have significantly more impact. Well, the VA is picking something somewhere in the middle as far as what that is worth, as far as the impact on that person's ability to work. And there are veterans who do have multiple disabilities. With multiple disabilities, they don't simply add 20, 20, 20, 20. There is a way of adding it, which I call statistical addition. They don't just cumulatively add them. A lot of other people call it VA math. But for example, 50% rating and a 50% rating equals 75%, which pays 80. And that's getting, how this works is getting far more involved into what we're saying here, what we're trying to do here. But one thing to keep in mind is that if there is a disability rating of 10% or more, even 0, that individual gets VA healthcare. If the overall rating is 50% or more, the VA healthcare is going to be at no cost to the veteran. And that's one of the big things we want to do, because that healthcare is a huge benefit. Even if they only get 10% disability rating, that healthcare is there for them, and that is huge. So let me get some final words in there. And I try to get through these things at every presentation. There are certain presumptive conditions where if the veteran is diagnosed with these illnesses, generally the VA is going to say it's related to military service. Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, is a big one. Back in 2008, the VA determined that there was a high percentage of military veterans compared to the normal population, the rest of the population, that develop ALS. They have no reason, no understanding why. but they do see this. So if a veteran who had served active duty 90 consecutive days or more, any era, develops ALS, the VA, once we turn that into the Veterans Benefits Administration, is going to confirm that the diagnosis of ALS and compensate that veteran for the disability. Another one that works kind of similar is multiple sclerosis, MS, but that has to be demonstrated, at least demonstrated symptomology within 7 years of leaving service. And another example of that I'd like to show is Vietnam service. With Vietnam service, everybody's heard of Agent Orange. Agent Orange causes a lot of problems in the body, and it affected just about everything. So if somebody has, say, ischemic heart disease, which usually results in stents or bypass, develops diabetes, kidney cancer, Parkinson's disease, these are all considered attributable to exposure to Agent Orange. Now, the VA doesn't necessarily stop at 100%. They have something called special monthly compensation. And I could do a whole lecture on special monthly compensation. But special monthly compensations is letter designation that, based on the veteran's disabilities, they may be entitled to additional money for their care. So a veteran who's married, who's receiving 100% disability, is probably paid around $3,100 a month. Depending on what those disabilities are and the impact on that person's ability to care for themselves, they may receive allowances all the way to what we call R2, which is over $8,000 a month. And somebody who's receiving assistance in the R2, R1 category, we're expecting is probably in a nursing home, or at least has a full-time in-home assistant. So these are things that, when we're looking at claims and looking at people's disabilities, we're also looking at, is there something else that we should be looking at that the VA should be considering with this person's disabilities? And the other one I wanted to briefly talk about is, unfortunately, sometimes while there is a claim going with the veteran dies. And what do we do in that case? Well, there's a couple different things we can do. One of them is we can file substitution if there's a survivor, and that person can represent the claim until the VA makes a decision. Or, which I will get into later, we can assist if we are convinced that that death is related to their military service. We can assist the surviving spouse with dependency and indemnity claim, which I'll get into in a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about, though, is adaptive housing grants, and often called VA home loans. This is actually a little different from VA home loans. What oftentimes people call VA home loans is the VA home loan guarantee. And all that is the VA saying to the lender, lend this veteran the money to buy their home, and we'll cover up to 25% of it. So that way the veteran, they're not paying 25%, they're guaranteeing it. That way the veteran doesn't have to pay private mortgage insurance and may get more favorable rates. When we're talking about housing loans or housing grants, this is what we're talking about. Veterans that have certain disabilities may be eligible for specially adaptive housing grants from the VA. And like this says, it's to modify the home so the veteran has access to it. So this would include ramps, modifying the kitchen, modifying bathrooms. Sometimes these are used when the house is being built. So these adaptations can be built into the home. And that's probably the ideal way to do it, because it's probably more expensive to change an existing home, but that's done too. And this could include elevators being put in the house so they can get access to all floors. Generally, what we see is individuals who are blind, lost the use of their lower extremities, or lost their lower extremities. And by saying loss of use, we're actually saying that their lower limbs are no better than if they were amputated. And that's one of the things the VA considers. But $100,000. Now, this is all things that have to go through a department of the Veterans Benefits Administration. So it can take a long time because each of the adaptations has to be approved by the VA. And in some cases, the veteran doesn't want something and the VA insists they have to have it. I've had a case where a veteran felt that the ramp that they had, temporary ramp they built in the garage, was sufficient, and he didn't want a ADA coated ramp in his front yard because he thought it was going to be too long. The VA said, you don't have a choice, you have to do this. And then the VA also approves the home and the payout levels as the house is being adapted. So this can take quite a bit of time to get done. There's also a special home adaptation. Now, this is in the case of a veteran who may be living with a family member. So it's not the veteran's home, it's maybe his parents' home or her parents' home. And due to the veteran's disability, there needs to be some adaptations. Now, it's not as much as a specially adaptive home because the veteran doesn't own it, but it's available to the veteran to make adaptations so he can access or she can access the bedroom, the bathroom, shower, whatever. And then we have temporary residence adaptations. And again, for that one, the veteran has to qualify for either the specially adaptive housing grant or the special home adaptation. And this is for when they're living temporarily in a location, and it's to make adaptations so they can actually live in the house. There's special applications for that. They have to meet certain criteria for this. We do help file for these things as well. Okay. Now, as promised, the next thing, and I encourage you to take notes depending on how quickly I get through this. There'll be time to answer questions. And if I can't answer the question today, I'll be able to get back to you and answer the question. I just ask you to take notes along the way, especially if you have questions, and we'll make time to answer some of those. Dependency and indemnity. Okay, dependency and indemnity is a term, it's kind of like an insurance policy against loss. In this case, the loss of the veteran. In cases where the veteran had passed away due to their service-connected illness, regardless of what the percentage was that they were receiving, the VA can grant dependency and indemnity to a surviving spouse. Sometimes a child or a parent. In the case of parents, DIC, it's income-based. And those are in the cases of where the veteran may have been caring for the parents and could claim those parents as dependents. Same thing with a child. Sometimes there's child-only DIC. There's different rules for that. So I put an asterisk on there because I'm mainly going to be talking about the surviving spouse. Now, and so what that does, it's not they are going to get the veteran's disability. Only the veteran is entitled to VA disability compensation. This is something else. And it's up to about $1,300 a month that is paid to the surviving spouse as compensation for losing their loved one. But like I said here, DIC is more than just money. The DIC program, and I'm going to get to the veterans program in just a minute, the DIC program also provides education benefits. So the children, if the veteran died before the children were of college age, or even if they're in college at the time, the children can have their college education paid for if the surviving spouse is in receipt of DIC. If the surviving spouse wants to go back to college, there's money to do that. Most importantly, the veteran's dependents will get something called CHAMP VA, which is civilian health care. It is an insurance, it is health insurance from the VA. Does it mean you have to go to the VA hospital? No. CHAMP VA is accepted by any doctor who accepts Medicare. So it is a wonderful thing, and CHAMP VA, it comes to these veterans and their survivors at no charge. Okay, I realized I jumped a slide ahead. This one is the ever popular pension program, commonly called aid and attendance. A couple of years ago, they changed a lot of the rules for the pension program, but basically it's to assist an impoverished veteran or survivor. And some of the rules are they had to serve during a period of wartime. One of the exceptions of that is Vietnam. Many people believe that Vietnam started in 1961, and Military Assistance Command Vietnam was in Vietnam in 1961. However, for pension purposes, unless the veteran served in country Vietnam before August of 1964, they are not considered to have wartime era service. Now, if after August 1964, it didn't matter whether they served in country Vietnam, they're considered to have wartime service. So the pension is back in play. Now, I put in there because the VA keeps stressing it, the pension program is not a program to protect the assets of a veteran or surviving spouse. Again, we said that they're impoverished, usually due to medical expenses. So the pension program is there to help basically be a life preserver, help them out. This is money specifically for their care to help them out so they aren't impoverished. And the levels aren't, nobody gets rich on pension, let's put it that way. But let's look at the three levels of pension. You first have the regular pension, and the regular pension basically means the individual is totally disabled. So if the VA was to look at it from the perspective of disability compensation, they'd be considered 100% for disability purposes. Funny thing, they consider people who are 65 and older to be totally disabled. So if you're 65, congratulations, you're totally disabled. Which is funny, I used to be a runner, and one of the more competitive running groups was the ages of 65 and 60 and older. And I would hardly consider those completely disabled, but for VA purposes, they are. Then there's one that people usually gloss over, and that's housebound. What is housebound? Housebound basically means the person is stuck in the house because of their disability. An example that I can think of is a veteran who may be on pension, has a severe cardiac problem, congestive heart failure, and basically can't leave the house. They're pretty much stuck in the house except to go to doctor's offices. Another example of that may be someone who has to be on an oxygen machine, and the portable oxygen machine isn't good enough. So in those cases, that person may be eligible for a housebound benefit. Now, aid and attendance, the old guideline for that, which back in the day when we used to have the doctors write notes for people regarding their need for aid and attendance, is they're basically helpless without the assistance of another person. Now they generally can't take care of themselves. They are unable to fill the daily activities of living, and there's a nice form for that to help out the doctors come to that conclusion. Again, we're able to assist with getting these pension benefits. And what does a pension benefit provide? Money. There isn't really many benefits outside of money, but again, it's to try to keep the survivor and the veteran from becoming impoverished. In the case of veterans pension, the veteran will have, if he doesn't already have it, they're going to get VA healthcare. And remember, what we're talking about is getting access to that VA healthcare, which is an extremely valuable benefit. So finally, let's get to VA healthcare. Excuse me, please. Okay, ways to qualify for VA healthcare. Well, you can get, those are some of the ways we've talked about, is they can be service connected, receiving pension. They can have certain military awards. The certain military awards I'm looking at is if they have a Purple Heart. They were injured in service. I don't know why they're not getting service connection, but if they have a Purple Heart and not otherwise service connected, they're automatically eligible for VA healthcare. If they're a recipient of the Medal of Valor, the Medal of Honor, they are entitled to receive VA healthcare. So those are two medals that they automatically get it. Excuse me, I hate to do this during the thing. Okay. I hope we got that recorded. The other one is exposures to certain environmental hazards. We talked about Agent Orange earlier. Generally, if a veteran is confirmed to have served in country Vietnam, we're going to be able to get that person VA healthcare without having to go through too much. There's still an application to be filled out, but they can get that. Other ways to get VA healthcare due to exposures. Camp Lejeune. A lot of people have heard of the problems over at Camp Lejeune and toxins getting into the water supply. Veterans confirmed to have been exposed to that contaminated water, we can generally get into VA healthcare. And another one is certain other exposures related to burn pits. Sometimes we can get them in. Another one is if they are just getting out now, then they're entitled to about 5 years of VA healthcare. And that's coming to them automatically. Now, there are 8 categories of care and eligibility. Categories 7 or 8 are ones where I get a little bit more complicated. And those are the not so automatic. The ones we used to say they're rich beyond their wildest dreams. So category 7, they can get VA healthcare, but they have to agree to pay for services and for their prescriptions. So the prescriptions, I believe, are $9 for a 30-day supply of whatever, and it is the other copay is $15 for primary care and $51 for a specialist. Hospital care under category 7, they're going to pay for part of that. I believe that's a little over $200. Now, if you're in category 8, you're paying for everything, and to give you a comparison, if they determine your category 8 and you're willing to pay for services at the VA hospital stay, is going to be over $700 a day. So that's category 8. We don't see too many people who go in under category 8 because they generally have insurance on their own. But again, we're talking about how to get access to VA healthcare. Now, so let's go ahead and assume we've got our client access to VA healthcare. What can they get with that access to VA healthcare? The first thing I want to talk about is home improvement and structural law alterations, or the HISA grant. This pays for medically necessary alterations to the home. Now, when I talk about medically necessary, I'm saying that a doctor has to say it's needed, number 1, and 2, it has to be reasonable. So that wonderful doctor of yours may say you need to have a hot tub. The VA hospital is not going to pay for you to have a hot tub. They will pay to alter your tub or shower to make it accessible for you. They will pay to make alterations to your kitchen, but they will not pay for that. And this is, I show $6,800. That's for service-connected veterans or non-service-connected veterans who have certain type of injuries. And this, again, is to make it more accessible. Now, this does not include ramps to the house. These are for structural alterations within the house to make it more accessible. For veterans that have a non-service connected injury, there is money available, not nearly as much as if they do have a service connected injury. This all is done through the VA doctor. Now, we talked earlier about how to get access to VA adaptive housing grants, which is administered by the Veterans Benefits Administration. The stuff that's done under the VA Health Administration, it's actually done through prosthetics, which is any aid to help the individual get access in this case. This is done at the hospital, and this can move a lot faster. So if all they really need is some way to use the bathroom, then the VA doctor can give a referral to the VA prosthetics department, and they can help put everything together to get the veteran an adaptation to the bathroom so they can use it without too much trouble. And this program works great. Now for ramps, a lot of the VA facilities have other funds to help with a ramp. You don't have many choices for that. And one of the big reasons that ramps are not included in this is because it's considered a temporary structure. These are structural alterations, which means they're going to be more permanent. A ramp is considered temporary. So there's generally separate funds for that. And again, that's something you can talk to the VA about. Also, if the veteran needs a motorized wheelchair, it's really neat. They'll actually send the veteran to class on how to drive the wheelchair, and they'll ship the wheelchair to his house. And if they need a ramp, again, oftentimes there's funds to put up a ramp from a different fund than the HISA grant. Okay, this is what we all came here for, the comprehensive caregiver assistance. Now, there's a couple different programs for this, and there is quite a bit to this. What mostly you have to look at is there needs to be a clinical need, and the veteran has to have a disability rating of at least 70% disability. That's considerable. Now, I got some notes here because a lot of these things have changed. The VA updated their forms and a lot of their information just last month in April. So I wanted to make sure I'm giving you the most up to date. But what do you get with the Program for Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers? Like it says here, education and training. This is done through the VA. Counseling. Having helped care for my mother in my home, there were times I absolutely needed counseling. It's tough. Being a caregiver can be tough work. It can be very frustrating. And sometimes that frustration is with the person you're trying to care for. And then there's guilt involved with, I know this person has problems and I'm getting upset with them. Why am I getting upset? Well, now you got counseling, and oftentimes you get to talk with other people who are going through the same thing. You're not alone. There are travel allowances. This is for taking the veteran to healthcare. So sometimes the VA hospital, they're broken up into regions. And for us, our main hospital here is a Level Federal Healthcare Center. And maybe the veteran needs some specialized surgery that can only be done at the Milwaukee VA hospital. So in this case, the caregiver would be given an allowance to go to Milwaukee and maybe spend a couple nights there while the veteran is getting his care. A big important one is kind of like with what we talked about as far as getting dependency and indemnity, the caregiver is going to get health insurance, the same health insurance that somebody gets under dependency and indemnity. It is the civilian health care insurance, and that is only for the designated caregiver. Under this program, you could have a backup caregiver, but that backup caregiver recognized by the VA is not the primary caregiver. They don't get this health insurance. The monthly stipend, now this has changed. With the post 9/11 bill that gave it, the formula for how the monthly stipend paid was different. And people who are currently receiving funds as a caregiver under that formula can continue to receive it under that formula. It's based on an hourly rate, and it's very, very helpful for those families. But this monthly stipend now is based on what a government service level 4 worker receives. And that changes from location to location. So I wanted the most up to date. I looked up this morning what that is in the Chicago region. So there are 2 levels that a person has under the program for comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. The level 1 means the individual is somewhat able to self-sustain himself or herself. For that case, they're going to receive 62.5% of the GS4 rating, which is approximately $1,821 a month. For someone who is eligible for the Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers who is unable to self-sustain, they need that round-clock care from their caregiver, who is typically a family member. That amount is $2,913. And that's to help compensate that caregiver who probably had to give up their job to care for their loved one. And as you can see what the qualifications are, again, I can't stress, there has to be a clinical need. Oftentimes, one of the issues that comes up, according to the VA, is enough where they've actually got that on commonly asked questions, is all my husband has, or all my wife has, is PTSD at 100%. Can they get this caregiver assistance? And yes, the caregiver assistance is based on everything else. There has to be a clinical need. Sometimes a person can have a mental health condition, and even though they're rated 100%, they're relatively functional. Sometimes they're not. So it gets down to what the doctors say about that individual's ability to self-sustain. So moving on. So that's comprehensive, but there's another one, and this is the program of general caregiver support services. So this is for individuals who do not qualify for the program of comprehensive assistance. So they may be able to qualify for the program of general support services. And this provides the caregiver with all the other training and courses provided by the VA hospital and home and community-based services that may be available. It does not have the stipend, does not have the health insurance, but it has a lot of other services and a lot of other connections that are available to the caregiver. These are all wonderful programs that the VA offers. Now, there are some community-based care services that are available locally, which if you tune in tomorrow, the panel is going to discuss some of those. Some of them are partially administered by the VA. Some of them are administered by local social service agencies. The VA is aware of those, and the caregivers will have access to those programs outside of the VA. And the rules of some of those programs will be brought up in the panel tomorrow, I'm sure. So tune in tomorrow for that. So at this point, here's some important numbers. Now, I put up the general VA caregiver support line because it's broken down by hospital. Each VA hospital has a caregiver support team and a caregiver support coordinator. I know the phone numbers of each of those, and if you want to go to them directly, please feel free to give us a call, and I'll be more than happy to get you that phone number. The general caregiver support line is there for you to call, and they can also give you some of that information. Of course, you want to have our phone number. Again, we covered a lot of ground here in discussing this today, and what we can do is we can answer questions. I can give out referrals, and we're willing to work with anybody who wants to work with us. We are very good at filing claims, and we take referrals from anywhere. And one of our big partners, ElderWorks, they're more than happy to refer to us, and even myself and my own family, we refer back to them as well. And we also have the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs. They're looking at state programs, and they also help with claims. Websites, a big one, if you want to learn, if you're good at reading and good at navigating the internet, va.gov has a lot of information about caregiver support, and they have the application. We also have the application in our office. And if you're not in McHenry County and interested in finding a VA SEER near you, that's a link that can get you there. So at this point, I would like to open it up for questions, if that's okay, Jennifer.
Yep, absolutely, Mike. So we do have a few questions. I'll just read through them for you. The first question is from D. Atkinson. Are the same services offered by the VAC of McHenry County also available from the VAC of Lake County, or are there differences?
There are definitely differences, and I'm going to try to give the short answer on that. The VACs were created from an 1895 law, the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act, and over time it had changed to where the veteran service organizations could put together a central benefits office for that community. So each VAC designs its programs specifically for their unique community. There are a lot of things we do similar. So Lake County and us, we both have financial assistance programs. We have a number of financial assistance programs here. They have emergency assistance there, I believe. We also have a caregiver assistance program. And wow, you're moving, Jennifer. There's a caregiver assistance program. But yes, there are a lot of programs that are very similar. And in the case of prosecuting claims with the VA, we're very good. They're very good. You go to any VAC, most of the VACs in the state actively engage in presenting and prosecuting claims. I just consider myself one of the good ones. So
yes, very good.
We're very good, and the other VACs are very good as well.
Okay, next question. If you could clarify the eligibility differences between CHAMP VA and TRICARE for life for Medicare eligible veterans. I know both act as secondary to Medicare. Is CHAMP VA for the veteran and spouse who actively served, and TRICARE for life is for the retired military man or woman and spouse?
If you have TRICARE for life, you do not have CHAMP VA. So it's one or the other. That's you got TRICARE for life because you were either military retired or you were military disabled retired, in which case TRICARE is given. I'm not an expert on TRICARE. However, I do have people in the office who know it a lot better than I do. As far as CHAMP VA, if in order to keep it after you're on Medicare, you must take Medicare Part B, and then it acts like a Medicare supplemental. And I'm hoping I'm answering the question. For details about CHAMP VA and TRICARE, generally you don't have both. You're going to have TRICARE for life, or you're going to have CHAMP VA.
Okay. And if Sue Grossinger has more questions, she'll reach out to you, I'm sure.
Please do.
Okay, Marcus something. Marcus Marr. I don't know. Sorry, Marcus. Question: for most of these benefits, is there a length of time the veteran has to have served? Does it have to be during wartime only? For aid and attendance's benefit, does the veteran have to already be receiving a pension to qualify?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. They had to have wartime service, and that the rule was after I believe it was, I'm going to get this wrong. I believe it was after October 1980. No, September 1980. You had to have at least 2 years of consecutive active duty, served during a period of wartime. If you were a reservist, served during the period you were called up for. Prior to that, it was 190 days of consecutive active duty service, and at least 1 day during wartime. So I hope I answered that part of the question. What was the other part?
The second part is for aid and attendance benefit, does the veteran have to already be receiving a pension to qualify?
No, they do not have to already be receiving pension. There's oftentimes confusion, and this is kind of where I'm getting confused. The VA disability, sometimes people and even the veterans call it pension. It's not, it's basically compensation. I compare it to workman's comp, only it's for former military. If a person is receiving service-connected disability and trying to get pension, the VA won't let them take the lesser benefit. So in some cases, they will give them the VA aid and attendance if they're unable to care for themselves, because that's a better benefit than, say, 20 or 30% disability in some cases. In other cases, they're going to say, well, the amount of money you'll get under this is less than what you're getting with the disability rating, so we're going to make sure you keep the better of the benefit.
So basically, it's one or the other. Whichever is the most benefit to you is what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, with the different stages of pension, it's based on where you're at. If they're already receiving the basic pension and their health got worse and they need to be moved up to, say, aid and attendance or housebound, that's something they can do. They can apply to have that done, and we do those as well.
And what's great about the aid and attendance is that they'll automatically get the health care benefit.
Well, if they're on pension, they'll get it.
Right, so they're not losing
So it doesn't have to be aid and attendance. They're on regular pension, housebound, whatever, they get VA health care if they don't already have it.
Or if they didn't know they had it, which I've had people ask me. All right, can you briefly review the current asset and income guidelines for the VA aid and attendance pension? Thank you. From Lisa Itkin.
Your mileage may vary. So, the problem with all these things, the one constant on that is I believe it's the Medicaid income and asset level, which is, I believe, pretty close to $127,000. So I stopped memorizing those numbers because the VA keeps changing them. So, so what I usually recommend is we look at it. As far as getting your foot in the door, is combined incomes and assets has to fall within that guideline of less than $127,000. Then they look at the income and medical expenses and everything else and make sure that they fall within the pension levels. So at this point, I can honestly say I don't know what the pension levels are off the top of my head. And I should have been prepared for that question because I'm sure it'll come. So please get me their contact information and I'll send it to them.
Okay. All right, we'll do that.
But the thing about pension though is it's not, let's say it's $1,800 a month for a pension. That would be the maximum pension level. If they determine that you have $1,000 a month after expenses, the VA is only going to make it up that $800 a month. So it's up to the maximum. It's not you made it by $1, you get the whole thing. We've seen cases where we kind of laughed about it. We shouldn't be laughing about it, where the veterans' year-long pension with aid and attendance was measured in a few dollars. I think $34 a year was our record low.
Wow.
And
wow.
They will send you a check. So,
okay.
But again, you get the health care if they're the veteran.
Sure you do, and prescriptions. Linda Sorensen would like to know, what determines the primary caregiver status?
The primary caregiver status, that's worked out between the VA. That would be something when somebody comes into our office and wants to get access to this benefit, we would help them fill out the application and we would get them in touch with the local caregiver coordinator. There's a lot to that. There's some training that's involved with that. And we want to make sure it's right. Some people may not be appropriate for that VA caregiver status. Generally, it is going to be a family member or someone close to the family that's acting as the caregiver. But I'm not going to guarantee that a certain individual is going to get that from the VA. But generally, it is a family member or someone who's designated by the family as the caregiver.
Okay. And then the last question, Sue Grossinger said that she knew that she could only have one or the other in terms of CHAMP VA and TRICARE. She wants to know if one was for the serving veteran in wartime, CHAMP VA, and the other is for the career retired military person or disabled retired TRICARE for life with Medicare. So, did you understand that?
Not at all. So again, I do have, when you get into the TRICARE stuff, I am free to say that I am not an expert on TRICARE. The beauty part that I like about our office is we have 4 service officers. We all know the basics and we all specialize in certain things. And I got a service officer who specializes in education benefits. This person knows education benefits better than some of the people at the college.
Wow.
I've got somebody who knows retired military benefits and knows them very well. People who get into technical questions about TRICARE and working with the defense finance system, they get the phone call. Women's health care, we got somebody who knows that. I know claims prosecution and appeals. So I generally get a lot of the appeals that are going before the VA Board of Appeals. And I have some other specialties too. I hate to get into them, but some of the more unusual types of claims that you would look at and think, you're kidding. So those are some of the ones that I end up getting. And sometimes I get those kind of claims directly from the VA.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I had one where the VA said, this person keeps telling us that this happened. We're just tired of listening to him. Once and for all, can you prove that he's nuts and none of this happened? And just the opposite happened. We proved it did happen and he's getting compensation for it.
Good.
So a lot of times it just takes some time digging into a case and really digging into files. And sometimes that takes a year or two to get all the information to get it right.
Okay, I think that was the last question. She said thank you. So Mike is an expert on the many veterans issues, benefits, pensions, etc. If you have a question that we didn't cover here, Mike is happy to answer those questions. Mike, you want to put the phone number in the chat? And I'll go ahead and, oh, let's see, there's one more thing. Criteria for military retired veterans and their dependents. I think this is from Jane. Jane Dorfner also works with Mike. CHAMP VA is for the dependents of veterans that are receiving 100% service-connected disability compensation and or surviving spouses of veterans that died from a service-connected condition.
Thank you,
Hopefully
Jane.
that helps. Perfect.
And yes, I didn't talk about the 100% benefits because that's another lecture.
Yeah, sure. Well, you can talk forever, I know. If anyone has a question on senior housing care support or benefits that are not VA connected, ElderWorks would be happy to help. We are a not-for-profit organization helping any older adult or senior or family with any question about aging. So please reach out to ElderWorks or Mike. We are always happy to help. And I think that's the end of our presentation. This was recorded. We will be putting this on our YouTube channel. So if you would like to share this with someone else at a later time, you may. This will also be on Facebook through ElderWorks channel and through the VACs. So if anyone has any questions, please reach out. We are always happy to help. Anything else, Mike, before we close?
No, I think you covered it all. Just if you have a more detailed question, again, I showed you the book and I summarized it in 45 minutes. So obviously there's going to be some detailed questions. Please feel free to give us a call. Not myself, one of my service officers will be more than happy to help you out. That's what we're here for.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for showing up, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're having another panel at 10 o'clock. It will be Jane Dorfner from the VAC, myself, and Sarah Schremp from the McHenry County Senior Care Volunteer Network. It's so long, but we will be talking about local benefits and other benefits that weren't covered here today, and maybe some overlap, but we will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.